Love. What is love? Is it the strong feeling of want for another? Or is it the happiness received when with others? This is something I wanted to find out, as often I feel like our society generalizes love as just this romantic thing. When I moved away from my home of 7 years, I had to leave behind all my close friends and start anew. This led to problems such as loneliness, as I could not find people that could fill this void. So I started looking for a romantic type of love, thinking that this could solve all the problems, when in fact it wouldn't. This is why I made this film, to find out and show what love is, the positives, the negatives, and how we can learn to express love more positively. To start this off, I want to look at what the dictionary has to say about love.
To have a great fondness and affection for a person or thing.
As you can see, this definition seems to be quite a generalization of what love really is, and there were so many different definitions of what love is, and so I wanted to find a way that we could categorize love more abstractly. And one helpful way of doing this I found was the way that the Greeks did it, and they categorized love into 4 different categories. The first one being the love of storge. Storge is the love expressed to family. It is natural and unforced. A great example of this would be the love that a mother has for her child. Philia, brotherly love, is the love for one another. This love encompasses a love for fellow humans, care, respect, and compassion for people. The third type of love the Greek categorized was eros. This is sexual love, the desire to love in that way. And agape. This is the highest level of love. It is selfless, sacrificial, and unconditional. This really is the love that we should be showing to everyone, but because of this, it is the hardest love to express. We seek love for many different reasons. Some reasons is to be content in your life, or to be able to trust in someone. Love is a beautiful thing. It is the natural desire to be loved and to love. As I said before, these are only guidelines. They can never fully explain or express what love is. As I'm only 17, I haven't fully experienced all that love has to offer. And I think it's important to talk to people who have for a longer time. And what better way to do this than to ask a couple who have been together for more than 50 years.
Well, it means, of course it means everything to me, because it'd be terrible living with someone you didn't love, and you know, we have a lot in common, so it's not too hard to love, and I'm pretty sure God meant my husband, dear husband here, Ross, as my partner, so it's certainly all fallen in place really well.
And I just believe that we were destined to be together. God had he had set aside both of us to be partners, because we have the same habits. That we love the same things. We love animals. We love farming. We love working together. We have similar interests. We both like going to the movies now and again. We both like cycling. We both like seeing the beautiful countryside, whether it's in New Zealand or overseas. And I think my favourite thing is seeing Carol in blue overalls to come out on the farm with me. That's always been something special.
The love my grandparents shared is one of strong companionship. It's one that shares common values and perspectives and would be there for each other no matter the difficulty. So what I wondered was, what would it be like for a younger generation, and what would their perspective on love be?
You have to be somewhat loving of this group to stay with each other for so long.
You kind of have to have like an element of love for the person if you're going to be like friends with them every single day.
Especially when you have to see them 6 hours a day.
Which is a lot.
Best time of your life. 5 days a week.
No, love grows through time, so like, you know, the more we are together, the more sort of...
The more comfortable we get with one another.
As you get we all like different, but we all work together, like we all stick together.
We all stick together, different dynamics.
like puzzle pieces.
Love to them in the way of friendship is one that holds a variety of perspectives and judgment and encouragement. I think it's an important environment to be part of because of this reason, as you have different perspectives to bounce off from. What I wondered was, what would it be like for a younger family with a baby, and how have they grown?
No, I was going to let you start.
I think expressing love for anything is about enthusiasm for it, and if you're interested and passionate about anything, really, there has to be a finite level of how to express it, and love is that top level. So if you are very passionate about, I don't know, cooking, and you're really, really passionate about it, you get to the point where you say you love it, and that's an expression of that enthusiasm where it goes beyond the practical implication of doing that activity or what it means, and starts to have an emotional context. That was a really boring scientific answer, and I apologise.
That was good.
Yeah.
And I think similarly it is that higher level of emotion, isn't it? That it's not just a like anymore, it's that love. And yeah, I think sometimes people feel like they need to be a bit cool and not say they love things. And I don't really believe in that. I think if you love something, you should, or somebody, you should tell them.
Right.
And show, and not just tell them, but show them. So that's actually really important. So when you're expressing love, it's not just about saying that you love it. It's actually showing that in some way. So, for example, the lifestyle that we lead as a family, we talk about loving each other, but we show that in the way that we love and what we do. So putting one another first, putting our family first in actions, not just in what we say. And the same for passions, things that we really love, like art and teaching. It's about, I show my love for them by doing them, but also learning about them and trying to improve. So it's not just I like it, I love it, and I want to improve, so you're showing that by an action, not just words.
I think love does require the emotional buy-in though. You know, you can't, it's not the same, you know, to say that you love something if you don't actually have an emotional feeling about it. You know, you have to have an air of excitement, you know, something that's almost involuntary. Do you think it has to be involuntary?
I think
you can't decide to love something. You can't say, look, I'm going to get in the chest and I'm going to love it. You know.
I think you can develop love though, can't you? You don't always immediately love something.
But I think the end result has to be involuntary. You can't force yourself into it. You know.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
What I found interesting about what Jodie and Ben said was how love is shown through actions, not just thoughts, and it has to have an emotional context to it. What I wondered was, what would love be like for a teacher who has to teach kids and has a passion and love for doing that? And what would that mean to them?
Ko te mea nui, ko te aroha, ko te pono, ko te rangi Māori. The most important things, three things that are important to me is the respect of love. It's being true to yourself, and also being at peace with yourself. So those are the three important things that I consider to be not only as a person but as a kaiko when I am teaching the students in it. So ko tērā taku te mea nui ki au.
What about your love that you have with your wife and your family? And, how does it relate to this cultural passion and love you have?
To me, like ko taku nei hoa wahine to my partner, it's not a love like how people see in regards to how you see on TV, like kisi, that kind of stuff. I think it's a love that you feel when it comes to making a connection. My love it goes deeper than just a physical attraction.
Yeah.
It has that wairua which I have in myself, it's in my spirit and my soul, which I pass on to my partner, and she passes back to me. So there's that connection with that mauri, that aroha. That the aroha is from the breath that comes out of your mouth towards somebody. It's a breath that you give to give life to them, and it's a breath they give back to you to give life to you. So to me, aroha doesn't mean like a physical attraction where we look at something like romance. Aroha is about sharing your wairua, which is your spirit, your soul to whoever you are giving it to, and they're giving it back. So it's a connection of that spiritualness that comes together, which shares that aroha. So aroha means like a breath of respect and love towards each other.
Would you say that this love that you get from your wife and your passion and love of your culture and spreading that identity to others and like your students, do you think that gives you the main upliftment in your life?
It certainly does. There's nothing better than me sharing my aroha to others and to seeing the expressions on their face. I mean, like when I teach with a passion because I have my ancestors that are behind me. So when I'm teaching and I'm speaking to reo Māori and I'm teaching tikanga Māori, I know that I am carrying on the legacy of my ancestors. So the love that I have for my reo, the love that I have for my culture is that I know that it is the love passed down from them down to me. So the knowledge that my ancestors have left for me to carry on in regards to teaching other people about our culture, the love that they have given to me from all that wairua and spiritualness that has been passed down to me flows through me and goes through to teach others. So that's my connection about being passionate about my language and being passionate about my culture, is that it's my ancestors that drive me in regards to honouring them, carrying on our traditions and ensuring that our people who have passed, that our future generations can look forward to knowing that they can be Māori.
The Māori meaning of love, aroha, is more than the type of love that Western societies know. It is one that breathes life into people and puts a strong priority on family and ancestry. I wanted to find another perspective on this aroha type of love, so I went to ask a mother and a son on their perspectives.
Would you like to go first? Okay. I guess love is the glue that connects people. It connects family. It connects all sorts of relationships. most definitely that connection with God as well. Add something to that?
Well, the way I see love, I see it as sort of a natural emotion sort of thing that God gave us to connect Him to us, but sadly sometimes that that love gets connected to something else.
Or someone else.
Yeah, or someone else. Yeah.
If I talk about love, I always default to the Bible because I grew up in a family that didn't have love. So it's really difficult to define something when you have never known it. When I became a Christian, I started to look at the Bible, and in Corinthians it talks about love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, love does not hold a record of wrongs. So to me, I default to that if I want to find out whether love is true and pure or not. And of course, like everybody, I fall very far short of that quite a lot of the time. With it, my relationship with Ihaka, because we understand one another so well, it's really easy. I think that the loving relationship that we share is really easy. Yeah, what do you think?
It wasn't that long ago. It was probably like a week ago, where we were listening to this Māori song, and we wanted to sing along, but we didn't know the words. And so we both searched it up unbeknownst to each other and started singing it, and we both thought, how do they know the words?
And we were both accessing it on the internet.
Yeah. And then at the same time we both looked at each other. Yeah. So it's just little things like that that just shows how, I don't know, how close we are.
Yeah, strongly connected, eh? Very.
It's really interesting just to see the diversity that people have on love, and so I went to ask people on the street what they think love is.
Love is home. Love is safety.
And looking out for each other.
Yeah.
Love, I think, means that when there are two people, that the needs of one person is more important to the other person than his own or her own. I think that's when there is love.
Love, to me, love means putting that thing before myself, and it just like it's always through your mind, and you just can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
Like my family, my pets, they're always on my mind, and I always put them before myself. I love them a lot.
Love and compassion.
Love and compassion?
Yeah.
Companionship and commitment, really.
Honesty.
And integrity.
Love is commitment, looking after one another, sharing things, having each other's back, but being true to one another.
To me, love is something that ties together all the differences of the world, and that's how certain things can make sense.
Friendship. At my age, it's just friendship and company.
For most people, they describe love as a set of actions and environments that are needed to express love, such as selflessness, commitment, and safety. Others saw love as more of a feeling, something that drives you to actions and other feelings. One type of love that is often overlooked is the love that we can have for sharing, expressing, and teaching a passion. A great example of this would be my good friend Dylan Wade, a musician that does guitar tutoring.
So my love of music, I respect and honour that sense of such strong feelings that music helps to cultivate in us. And being a musician who writes music and performs music and teaches music, I feel there's such a great exchange of energy that comes from writing music or learning music and then sharing it with others who then get lifted from it, uplifted, and that upliftment, that fulfillment, that joy that comes from being a part of a musical experience, whether it's in a performance setting or crafting a beautiful recording or having a really good music lesson with a student who's gone up to a new level through learning a new song or working on a song that they've written. Yeah, that exchange, it's a very precious thing that I value very much.
Dylan finds fulfillment in music through creating, performing and teaching it. Much like having a family, he can pass that knowledge down and gain it back. This relates to the answer Ben gave, as when there is strong emotional context to it, it begins to turn into some type of love. For my last interview, I wanted to ask Phil and Shelley, a couple that runs a Christian camp focusing on teaching leadership, teamwork and love to kids and the youth in the community.
Well, I think living your life, you have an opportunity to serve yourself and serve your own selfish ambitions and the things that you think matter and the things that you think make you who you should be. But when I've lived that way, or when we've lived that way, we haven't found true purpose in that. And so when you live outside of your selfishness and your fleshly desires, and you live for love, and you live to serve people around you and to help people around you and to give people an opportunity to receive your love, it makes life worth living. And as a couple, we have definitely done both, where we've lived selfishly and then we've lived for other people. And living for other people has brought us purpose and meaning. Yeah.
I think Shelley and I are both called to be givers, and then, you know, as you're saying, through the act of giving, you actually find that we receive a lot more.
Yeah.
I think the nature of, you know, you're talking about love, I think the nature of love is an action that is considerate of the other person. It's not just thoughts or feelings or emotions, but it's actually the acting out towards someone else for their betterment. Love requires that action, and so for us, you know, talk is cheap. You need to back that up with time, money, those kind of things you're talking about that the world tries to hold on to. We feel that we're called to give, but you know, we believe it's scriptural that in the process of doing that, you actually receive a lot more. There's blessings as a result. So it's kind of counterintuitive to maybe how we naturally think.
Yeah.
And there are times when we don't serve and give in that way. But we know ultimately that's our life calling, and so it's a journey.
Yeah, and I think it's when we know that we are loved very, very sacrificially from a God that gave everything for us, it just, we want people to know that same message, and we want people to know His love, because we've just experienced God's love over and over and over again, and His faithfulness, and understanding His way and understanding His word. And yeah, I remember a quote. Mother Teresa said that you can never get poor by giving. And we just have seen that in our lives, just the amount of blessings that we've gotten just by learning how to love. Before we had kids, the way that we loved people was probably a little bit more superficial and a little bit more, you know, just wasn't very deep, you know. And then, you know, since we've had kids, it's just been this like opportunity to be like, hey, we want our kids to see us not just talk about love or talk about God or talk about this. We want them to live it, and we want them to see it, and we want to open up our home and open up our hearts. And in that process, there's a vulnerability and a transparency that's there that opens up for hurt and opens up for, which we've experienced that as well. That hasn't stopped us from re-loving again or pursuing those relationships and those opportunities. So, yeah.
For Shelley and Phil, a major aspect of love that they find fulfilling and that they seek is the aspect of giving to someone out of sacrifice. They believe that this is what they should seek in life, and it shows in their character. As I said before, one of the reasons of making this film was because I had problems of chasing love myself. It made me impatient and do silly things. With others it can bring jealousy and fear, and as Yoda puts it, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. It could lead to sadness and depression and problems that lead from that. And it can lead to someone having a love for someone other than their partner, leading to cheating, adultery, and anger and depression. Obviously, these problems can seem quite extreme, but if we do not learn to express love properly, these problems can occur. So how do we solve these problems? Well, one way is to be open and honest with these people you share your love with, and just talk it out. It's something that we often don't do enough of, and we just leave things unfinished. But these are just some of the remedies, and they're not always going to work. And so I think a good way of figuring out how to solve these problems is to listen to people who have experience in it. Let's hear again from my grandparents.
Yes, well, when Levi mentioned the problems, we were thinking, gosh, we really haven't had a lot of certainly major problems, but possibly when I first met Ross, I was probably a wee bit concerned because he was far better educated than I was. I always felt a bit inferior with my intellect, but my lovely husband, Ross, here, he accepted me for how I was, and I think he also thought, well, there's a good farmhand there, I'll really get on to her.
Little problem I have, not a major either, but now and again, I think Carol, she gets it off her father, who used to do it a little bit with his wife, my mother-in-law. And that is, now that she thinks that I exaggerate a bit.
Oh, yeah, but you don't, do you, love?
And so now and again she'll question me and about some, some answer I've given, and it doesn't worry me when there's no one there, but if there's people around and visitors, it does sort of rankle a little bit.
Very bad.
But anyway, I just love her so much I can forgive her for that. Once or twice I have pulled her up over it, but otherwise we just get on so well together.
We're very blessed to have such a wonderful marriage, really, to both have, like Ross said, both have similar likings. It's certainly a major part of it.
And we've been married 52 and a half years, and sure, like everyone, now and again you don't agree or you don't see quite eye to eye, but we've never ever had a big argument In all those years, we've never ever had a big argument. And I think one of the key things in a marriage too is that if you do have a disagreement or an argument, never go to bed without making up and giving each other a kiss and a cuddle afterwards, because that is so important, that you always go to bed, go to sleep in a happy situation.
With my grandparents, because they have been together for so long, they understand each other's nooks and crannies, and they know how to sort out each other's problems, and they work together as a strong team because of that. And this is shown through their experience. Next, I wanted to hear how Jodie and Ben solve their problems.
So often, I don't know, let's say we'll go with the cooking thing still. Say you have a passion for cooking and you love it and that's what you want to do with your life. It's still actually a fairly big leap to decide I am going to devote myself in whatever form to becoming great at this and to giving it my all and to giving it, and it is about giving, to giving it my emotion and time and making it part of my life. And it's about risk. It's always about risk, and it's about giving yourself and accepting what those risks are, the risk of failure, the risk of rejection, the risk of not meeting your own standards. That's it. I mean, there's practical bits about whether you'll make enough money, and you know, if it's a career thing, or you know, how you're going to afford to live with 5 kids if you want to have 5 kids. But the real things are about venturing yourself, you know.
I'm first and foremost an artist, and then I teach art as well. But obviously, having just had a baby in the last 10 months, a lot of my time has been taken up looking after him. So in terms of time and space, I've not had a lot. So that poses a real problem in terms of making, physically, but also working things out in my head as well for pieces of artwork. That there's a lot of emotion that goes with bringing up a little baby, which means a lot of my emotion is focused there, and so not a lot can go into the artwork, or sometimes it's a bit raw. The emotion is too raw to actually work out in terms of the art, and sometimes that's just leaving it alone and giving myself a bit of time and then going back to it. So yeah, so I've got a lot of work that is about earnest, and there's probably going to be a lot of artwork made later on as well.
To take on love, you need to take on risks as you become open and vulnerable. However, by giving yourself up fully, you can take on these risks and conquer them as you're giving your whole effort towards it. I wanted to ask Abby and Ihaka again what their problems with love are and how do they solve them.
I guess the first thing, if we're looking at the immediate problem with love, I think about how Ihaka and I deal with anything like that comes up that causes some grief, is that we have time apart. So we'll just be in a different space and leave one another to think about it for a while. And invariably, within a short space of time, we come back and we discuss it and apologise and move on. If I look at how I was taught to deal with problems in love, was quite problematic. It was not a good way to deal with stuff. It was anger, lots of anger, lots of suppressed anger, because I went through domestic violence as an adult, and my experience of that is that bringing up children through that environment distorts their view of love as well, just like it distorted my view of love. So it's a process that you need to walk back to heal?
How we deal with problems. We basically do that. We just spend some time apart. Yep.
I'm going this way.
And then sometimes bitterly come back together, sort of a bit salty. But we do it because of the love for the other person. Yeah.
Yeah, I always figure that, is it going to matter next week? So that's always my default thought, and I think, yeah, definitely anything to do with my love relationships with people that I care about, then I'm going to try and make another effort. And for the best, most, we try to love other people, but they also have a choice as to whether they want to connect in that relationship or not. So my default is always back to the Bible, because that is the picture of true love, the picture of Christ on the cross, and Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind. So that's always my default position.
It's hard to hear stories like Abby's, and she's not the only one that have suffered these problems growing up. It was good for Abby as she found a new way of understanding love through the Bible, and that helped her a lot with all her children, such as Ihaka. I wanted to hear what the answer of solving problems of love would be like for a group of friends around my age.
If you have 5 people together and they're all different people, you're going to have some problems because you just can't really get along with everyone all the time.
But
you
it's,
get annoyed with each other, but you can't even get over it.
like, it's fine, like we all get along quite well, but just when other people jump into like our group, it kind of just causes conflict.
Definitely other people.
And then we kind of just ignore them until they go away.
Sounds terrible. It really does. But inclusive, you know. Everybody loves everybody.
Yeah, but we still appreciate those people. We still love them, but it's just
it can get hard, but it's alright. Because like, even though we'll drift apart sometimes, we'll always come back in the end. At some point, we'll come back together. Because we're tight.
Any other problems?
We just don't. We don't see eye to eye on some things. Just like
Yeah, we fight, but we
we get it, right?
Yeah.
It's like
bounce right back like a
basketball.
But she keeps trying to come up with new analogies so that she looks super smart. Oh yeah, we also get ourselves into trouble by calling each other out on everything.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. I guess like a trampoline.
Because of their age, their problems do not have as solid solutions as older, more experienced people do. But it still shows that love prevails and allows healing. The last people I wanted to interview were Phil and Shelley.
Problems. There's always problems in love, because love is, again, making yourself vulnerable. And if you want to grow deeper in love with people, you have to expose yourself to getting hurt. And I think that that's ultimately what marriage is. It's two people, and if two people don't come and they expose themselves and they expose their past and they expose their rubbish in their lives and the things that they struggle with, then that marriage isn't going to last. It's just going to be a fraud. And so I think, you know, when we first were married, we really had to work through a lot of stuff and just start understanding each other and figuring out how each other tick and what's important and what we value, and we fought a lot. You know, we really had to communicate through that. Sometimes it was loud and sometimes it was uncomfortable. It was always uncomfortable. But I'm grateful for the pursuit of love through that.
It would be equivalent, the amount that you're then entrusting or becoming vulnerable is the equivalent to the amount that you can become hurt. You know, there's a constant battle with do I trust this person enough to be more exposed? And I think there is a nature of problem in that we don't really understand what love is today. I think it's a term that's thrown around a lot. And you hear it all the time. People use this word love to justify their own behaviours or philosophies or thoughts or whatever. And, you know, even to the point of labelling something hate speech when it's simply a disagreement on a certain topic. I think in society we need to address this question of what is love.
Yeah.
Because from a place of misunderstanding, I think a lot of people get hurt and use this concept of, well, if you loved, you'd do this. You know, and a good example, you discover it as a parent very quickly, because you've got to go, how do I discipline or train or guide this young person? And if it's simply loving just to give them whatever they want, whenever they want, in the nature of trying to achieve that, we do a disservice to our kids. And in fact, in a very unloving way, we raise them with a false sense of things. And for us as Christians, the only way to define it, the plumb line of all of that, is the example that we have in Jesus. And through his life, through the way that he served, he gave, poured out of himself for others. That's our definition of what true love is. And some people might find that horrendous, but we've looked at all other examples of, or claims of what love is, and nothing in our opinion matches up to the life of Jesus. There's a lot of people out there looking for that magazine kind of love affair, and yeah, we need a dose of real love.
Through this journey, we've found out just how amazing love is, but also how challenging it can be. Jody and Ben talk about this, saying that love is a leap of faith, about giving it your all. Phil and Shelley add to this, saying that love is about vulnerability, strength, and trust. If we look at how society and culture is today, we can see how these challenging aspects have been avoided. With the coming of the digital age, one-night stands are only a few clicks of a button away, and there is a continuing push towards consumerism and individuality away from family and community. Commitment and perseverance is losing its importance, with dating no longer being about finding a lifelong partner and friend, but instead about quick self-pleasure and enjoyment. Can you not see this storm that we are stirring? So, to finish this off, I wanted you to be left with this question. What type of love do you want to seek and express in your life?